Hi, I'm Ryan Coogler, and welcome to Scene at the Academy with Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Obviously, the film was dealing with grief and the idea of learning how to cope with the loss. And we worked really hard to make sure that that theme was present throughout the film, um, in terms of film language and what we were communicating with the audience. But in terms of what we were feeling, we were all living that process as people and as artists. And as a collective. It didn't take a lot of artifice to have our focus, on the topic and on the subject matter. But we still had to go through the work of making decisions that could communicate, what the characters were feeling, what we want the audience to feel, and also the idea of grieving being like a necessary part of life. Not just a bad thing, something that you have to learn to live with and have to make come to an understanding of it on your own terms. That's the film deals with that a lot.
So for me, as far as the movie goes and the through line of the death T'Challa, this is a franchise that we lost our leader, we lost our king. So this franchise could have been over. So for us to keep going in memory of him is what we're honored to do here.
It was incredible as an actress. That's what you are intent on doing is using, if you can, some of those portions, those pains, that joy of your real life. If you can bring that to a character in a realistic and a thoughtful way, a way that it helps also in the personal healing. And I think that is indeed what we went through as actors on the stage. We had the hair, the costumes, the scenery that helped us. They got us there, that put us in the moment, that was a cohesive element for all of us. But also then we brought our own personal feelings and what we felt in the loss of the moment to those scenes.
For me, basically Ruth Carter, she really led the charge for us in this funeral scene. The clothes were absolutely where we started, and everything that we did as far as the hair goes is going into the tribal looks and even taking them to a new level, because we have never seen any of our tribes in the tribal look. So just for us was doing what we had done in the first one, but seeing everybody in mourning and seeing everybody in white was really the most powerful thing. You're still seeing all the elements of the hair. You're seeing locks, you're seeing braids, you're seeing Afrocentric hair. And so that's what we portrayed throughout the movie and in the scene.
The way that people deal with grief is different for everyone. And we had a sudden loss. And we also had the opportunity with the funeral scene to have a grieving period between not only the story, but between us as crew members. We had some place to pour our grief into. We had a story that was crafted through grief by Ryan Coogler, and the opportunity to be able to do that immediately following his passing was incredible. A very heavy load to bear, but also a very cathartic process.
When you see those tears, those were real tears that we felt for him, that we felt in the loss, in the real missing and mourning of that person. And to have the opportunity to use that in our art, is cathartic, as Ruth said, and it's very powerful and healing. There was a huge mural on the side of a wall that had been painted of Chadwick. And once you proceed it, and then of course it's cut and go back to your starting point, you turned around and you gazed at it. You saw it for the first time. And it was just divine and perfect in that moment. You just literally just open your heart, open your memories of this wonderful human being, actor, leader, and go for it. Be there with one another, holding each other's hands. I was there, walking along with Shuri, who had a great relationship with Chadwick, a brother-sister relationship on and off the screen. So it was a very, I think it was a very moving moment for her. So as her colleague, as her mother, as her friend, all of that in holding her up and being mindful of her and what she's going through, you just carried that over into the scene.
This still being a very Wakandan ritual. This is not an event where the whole world is invited to it. It's something that's personal and cultural and somewhat insular. And a lot of that came from the research there, and obviously that trickles through the departments. Working with Ruth and her department, working with Camille and Joel Harlow, and working with Hannah Beekler and Autumn Durrell Arkapaw. We were all kind of holding hands and thinking about how we were going to present this and how it was going to be cohesive and feel like something that's been happening in this place for thousands and thousands of years. This idea of T'Challa not being the first Wakandan king to die. There's a process that they go through. Who's in thinking about who's holding the casket, who's in which position, what kind of shots are we doing? Are we in handheld or are we in studio mode? We talked about all of these things, and we would talk about them together. It was also this idea of the procession being somewhere between a mourning thing and a celebration. Kind of threading that needle is something that you're seeing in African cultures and also cultures of the diaspora. And Ruth knocked it out of the park. With all white Jabari costumes and all white Dora costumes, all white Queen Ramona and Shuri. The textures, the different beadwork, they had artisans working from all over the world to contribute, to make it feel like you were watching something that was how it was supposed to be. Even though you didn't want it to feel manufactured. If that makes sense. And for the makeup, it's a lot of storytelling being told in all of the makeup. This idea that T'Challa was the first king to reunite the 5 tribes of Wakanda. You would see a lot of handprints, white handprints on a lot of the Jabari in 5, stripes on a lot of people's faces. And they brought back a lot of the dotting, the specific dotting that you see on Shuri's face. That kind of is a through line through her whole costume. So it was a lot of intricate work. I'm really happy that folks are being recognized for it. With all that said, we wanted the audience to feel like they were, that it was for them as well.
You will be stripped of your rank as general of Wakanda's armies and your status as Dora Milaje. Ningathetha umkhanikazi. You may. Ndiyacela. I have given everything. Let me die, saving my country and that throne. Ndiyacela, Mama. Allow me to make this right. Make it right. I do not know if my daughter is alive or dead.
Perhaps we are being too hasty. She raised a spear against her own husband for Wakanda.
Where is her treacherous husband now? But in a place where she can visit if she wished. Mine! It's with the ancestors. I am queen of the most powerful nation in the world, and my entire family is gone. Have I not given everything?
Dressed resplendently in that red, and the Ishikolo sitting upon the throne that my son had sat on. and was no longer on, but now I have to fill this seat and just rocking back and forth in that, in that moment of what it means that he's gone, with all of the Dora Milaje around you, and the elders around you, and the tribes around you, and the people who depend on you. Just taking in all the different aspects of the room and what it means and what is going on, and being open and available to Okoye and what she's saying to me, and feeding that through my perspective as wife and mother in this moment, and feeding it through my perspective of love and loss and grief in this moment.
That was an emotional scene also for all of us to be in the throne room. And just seeing Angela, even if you watch her body language in that, you see her when she first starts off, her arms are over the chair, then she moves her arms inside, like even her physicality in it is the acting and the motion in it that we get to see. And again, you get to see her in the beautiful, beautiful costume that Ruth did, and you see her in her beautiful crown, but you see her strength there, and you even see her strength as her character, and you've seen like her pain of what she was going through and where she was headed, and what, even what was happening in the movie.
This is a day that we have prepared for, that Ryan Coogler has, told me countless times that this is when, all of the military factions come together, because Okoye is in front of tribal council with this huge, she's lost the princess. This is a big moment. And when I look towards Angela Bassett and I see her in the red dress and she's sitting on the throne, we put the Dora Milaje behind her. That's how Ryan staged the scene, and the composition of color of her red dress and the Dora Milaje behind her as an army, the highest ranking female fighting force of Wakanda, standing behind the ruler of Wakanda, is very powerful and very female, woman-driven, powerful moment for her. She's sitting there so casually with her arms crossed. She's wearing this incredible look for the queen. I step outside of myself as a costume designer, and I take in the composition of what I'm looking at, and she's adorned, and she's wearing the ishikolo, the queen's crown. And Angela delivers the performance, the masterful performance of a queen.
What she says, that she's queen of this big, powerful place. That's supposed to be the most powerful place in the world, but she doesn't have any family, and that was a lot of the irony of our situation. That we had this big giant movie, that was considered to be, wildly successful and kind of like, a big moment for representation and what the future of the industry could be. But we got the wind knocked out of us, when the guy who was the face of that and the backbone of it was taken away, and so that was kind of how we felt every day. You know what I mean? Like we got all this, this money now and attention and all this, all of these great things, but the guy who we did it with is not here anymore. And it's a very strange feeling, and I thought Angela just kind of knocked that out of the park, in terms of saying that, and that is like a universal truth. You know what I'm saying? Like what good is having power? What good is having strength if you don't have anybody there to share it with?
Lift me up, hold me down, keep me close.
The closing scene is like when you see Shuri on the beach and you can see the waves and you see the wind in her hair, but it feels like when she's laying the dress, in the fire, it's almost like she's laying down all her burdens. And hopefully she's almost going to be like the phoenix and she's going to rise. And she did. She rose out of that fire and just laying those burdens down and just letting them go and going into her new life and who she is to her community and who she is to Wakanda.
It was perfectly suited to the moment. And that moment being of a young woman, Shuri, who we see in flashbacks was so young and hopeful and full of life, and and as a little sister with kid her brother and was brilliant, and that she's obviously now having gone through a real heart-wrenching life change. And all sound to have disappeared, to have gone away, faded away in that moment that she sits on the beach, except for just faint whispers, of the wind. It's like her listening for that small, still voice, that will soothe her, comfort her. And that song is just very hopeful. Lift me up, hold me down, keep me close, safe and sound.
The significance of Lift Me Up playing at the end of the film, it's really like I think symbolic of the journey that Shuri goes on. And she's a surrogate for us. I think she's a surrogate for the audience, this idea of grappling with a profound loss that feels unfair and not having anywhere particularly to put your anger, not having anywhere really to get answers for why, and I think that she's struggling with a lot of things and finds herself a different person from who she was before she lost the things that she lost. Film is in many ways a coming of age as well. Not just like in terms of her maturing, but in terms of the ways that life can transform you. So I think it's a lullaby for me, for parents and children, but it's also something that you might sing for somebody who's passed away, both the ends of the spectrum, it works both ways. For me, it's a song where I think about a lot, yeah, but it'll always be tied to Chad for me at the same time.
The music of Wakanda Forever has changed me as a filmmaker. I have experienced music on this film differently than I have experienced on any other film I've ever done. And Lift Me Up is a lullaby that speaks so much to the heart. I feel like it was written from the heart. It was composed from the heart. This scene with Shuri, who has given up so much, she has had so much loss. She lost her brother in real life and in cinema life, and then she loses her cinema mother. And the song, it just watching the scene that you just showed just brings tears to you, because we had so much joy in Panther 1, experiencing it with Chadwick and seeing the sister-brother relationship play out, so well. And then we all suffered the loss of our brother. And that song is a culmination of our emotions.